Hello, Internet. This is the, I believe, third episode now of Coffee Books Repeat. And today I am joined by none other than Arlen or Arlie Queen or whichever alias she chooses to go by today. And we are here to talk about generating story ideas. Now, Arlie has already got at least one fiction book out there in the wild. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I know you're working on another one. Yes. I believe Mad Cat Hat is its name.
Correct.
All right, great. And I should have mentioned this already. If you want to watch us, we are broadcasting live right now. If you want to watch us, if you're clicking on the link on Twitter, go ahead, click on the link on Twitter, and that'll bring you to the YouTube, and you can comment and everything in the chat over there. I am monitoring it on one of my screens. And also, just for fun, I've got Twitter up as well. So go ahead and add us if you have any questions that you would like to ask Arlie or myself. Now, actually, and before we really get into it, there, Arlie, where can people find you? Where should people at you at?
The easiest place is Twitter at Dr.Who. Wait, no, hold on, I missed.
You have a long Twitter handle.
I do.
I'm just going to say.
It's Dr. Who, What, Why, How. I originally intended to have the entire 5 W's and H, but somebody had stolen it, so I was stuck with that. Dr. Who, What, Why, How. I am also on Facebook, Arlen Lake. Same profile pic as I have on Twitter, so it shouldn't be too tricky to find me. I believe if you search Dice of the Nothing, that is what it was linked to, was the first fiction book that I published.
Awesome. And if you want to at me, I am at Gingerman. The words are hard. At Gingerman Editorial on the Twitter, and that's good enough for right now. Again, if you look for my profile and everything, you'll see the tweet that has the link for this show. And again, go ahead, comment live, subscribe, all of that jazz. All right, enough of the intro stuff. Arlen. So you are a writer, and so that means, and you are a former English teacher, so yes. You are well-versed in not only coming up with your own story ideas, but in guiding others in doing so. So as we were talking about just before we went live, I need guidance. So how do you go about it? How do you go about first coming up with a story idea and then taking that and actually crafting that into an actual publishable story?
Well, a couple of things to consider. First, for me, I'm extremely blessed in that all but one of my fiction books, I dreamed at least one scene. The majority of them I dreamed entirely or almost entirely. So I can't take credit for coming up with any of them, really. Ironically, the only one I did not dream is one about how writers get their stories through their dreams, which I am co-writing with Jolynn. If anyone is not familiar with her, follow her at Introverted Joe. We are co-writing the book called Navigating the Dreamscape because apparently I like to write about 5 books at a time.
Why not?
There you go. Yes, so I know a lot of people have asked me, if everybody gets their books from dreams, because I explain a lot that that's where they come from. But even if you don't dream entire full novels, feel free to take inspiration from your dreams and just let it inspire a plot or even characters. Sometimes people have recurring dreams about a person they've never met. And you can turn that into something. Otherwise, I'm taking inspiration from daily life. If anyone has ever read Stephen King's On Writing, I recommend it if you haven't. He's got some really good advice in there about writing. It's a different book from anything else he writes. It's actually about writing. And one of the things he says is that when coming up with plots, what he does is he says, what if? And just uses things from his daily life and asks, what if this were different? Or what if this happened? That was how he came up with Carrie, was based on a student at his school when he was in high school. And he asked himself, what if she were just a little bit different? Or what if she were more naive than she already were? Okay. I used that technique when coming up with a story called No Left on Red. I was leaving my first teaching job in Rockford, Illinois, and I was at a red light. It turned green. Before I could go, somebody cut me off by driving through the red light, turned left. And I thought in my head, what if I had magic powers and I could follow that guy and just make his life a living hell for cutting me off? Because he could have killed me and I could be somebody someday. I mean, I was a teacher, obviously. I was somebody. Teachers are the salt of the earth. But so I used that to come up with a story idea. So just common things that are happening. You see somebody and they're really unique looking. Ask yourself, what if their personality was like this? J.K. Rowling actually did. That's how she came up with the character of Hagrid.
Okay.
Yeah, she met a biker who was an incredibly soft personality. It didn't really match what he looked like, and that's how she came up with the character of Hagrid. So,
I wonder if she met the same biker that I knew back in the day, because it kind of fits.
well, I don't know. I have to wonder if it was on this continent. So,
It could be.
Unless his bike can float.
We do have a lot of bikers. I imagine more than England, but I don't really know.
You know, I've yet to go there. I just entered a contest, second one I've done, to attempt to have breakfast with Benedict Cumberbatch. If I win that, I will fly to that island and have the time of my life. So y'all can root for me for that one.
Awesome.
But one of the other things I was going to say, as far as coming up with story ideas, some people start with plot. That's where the what if comes in. If you dream a plot, or something unique happens in your dream, you can turn it into a plot. I'm what you'd call a character writer, which is why when we were talking before, I asked if you had started with your characters, and I mentioned the head movie technique. People who play games like D&D, Vampire Masquerade, those sort of things, you come up with characters. When I was younger and not so skilled, did not yet have my degree in English, I was well read but not well written, if you know what I mean by that. And I had come up with some characters. I did end up using our role play characters and writing a book. It will never be published. It was garbage. I was 18. But they were interesting characters. And there's a funny thing that goes around on Tumblr on occasion. This may come as a shock to people, but I'm a Whovian. I love Doctor Who.
No.
Like, right? Crazy.
Say it.
Right. The name had to come from somewhere. But there's a thing that goes around on Tumblr, and of course it then gets shared on Facebook and Twitter, where it says people say they would basically watch some of the former companions of the Doctor just doing normal things, like going to the grocery store. They'd watch 30 minutes of Donna going to the grocery store. And my point in mentioning that is, when you create a captivating character, then they'll drive your story. Earlier today, Erica Rose, I believe it's at Erica Rose, but there might be an underscore somewhere in there. She asked me about what do you do when you have two ways your scene can go and both get you the same desired result? And that's where I pull in the head movie technique. Something that I do every single time I'm working on a book, and I look like a crazy person doing it because I do it all day, but I daydream and I watch the characters as if I'm watching a movie, and I try to detach, go through the part that I know happened, the part I'd already written, and just let the characters drive from that point.
Okay.
It has completely changed entire story arcs in my head. With the second book for Dice of the Nothing, the ending as it is now, which you'll see once it's published, it's still in progress. It is not even close to what I was trying to have it do in the first place. I was going to have one of the main characters go into this, not exactly a land of the dead, but sort of an underworld, and discover his birth father. Instead, Dad's not even in the book. Girlfriend ends up going there, and it changes everything. So totally different. When you create a character and it's a strong enough character, you will see that they will make decisions for you when you're trying to move your plot along, which is why I asked if you had done some character mapping.
Right.
If you try to force them into something unnatural, you'll notice that it's not working. I'll rewatch a scene several times in my head and wait until I get that sort of butterflies in my stomach moment, where I'm like, ooh,
Hmm.
this is exciting. I want to see what's going to happen next. All right. And you're making the story, so it sounds
Hmm.
kind of crazy to think that you're going to have that like anticipatory anxiety. But that's what happens. That's when you know this is it. That's the scene I
That's
need.
when
It
it's
gave me
clicking.
butterflies.
When you, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, you get the little emotional attachment to it. So, but then the one other thing I wanted to say, as far as and this uses good character development as well, but something that every year when I was teaching English, I would try to bring in any way I could is the cycle of the hero, the epic hero cycle. There are other names for it as well, and you can look it up online if you're unfamiliar with it, but it deals with archetypal characters,
Hmm.
archetypes in literature. And the epic hero goes through several stages. Um, it's, I guess you'd say, loosely based on the Odyssey, more so that the Odyssey fits it, not that it came from the Odyssey.
Right, right.
But any hero in any movie, comic book, piece of literature at all will go through nearly every stage of this cycle. So if any writer is ever stuck and they don't know what to do, they've got, like you said, you've got an end point and a beginning point, maybe you're missing the middle, whatever it is you're missing, look up the hero cycle.
Hmm.
Find a grid if you can. If not, I've got ones that I can share that I've used with writing students before. And you can really just fill in the blanks and see what you're missing. The very first thing at the top is they have to have a quest. They're going somewhere and for something. There's something
Hmm.
they need to find, and it has to be away from home. Um, Other than that, everything else, they don't have to fit every single stage, but it's a great framework. It tells you what kind of characters they need to interact with. That at some point they need to go into a place where other people cannot go. Um, for example, in the SpongeBob movie, he went into that giant pit where there were all the monsters. Batman has the Batcave.
Hmm.
Moana went to the realm of monsters. Um, Anna and Elsa go to the ice castle. These are all places that. Oh well, and Anna also goes to the land of the rock trolls. These are all places that normal humans cannot go. Um, so if you're stuck with what your hero needs to do, see if you've already created something in your
Hmm.
universe that other people aren't allowed and have them go there. When they're there, have them find some sort of token or piece of information that they then carry back with them to finish their quest. Um, so
Okay.
the yeah, the
So
heroes.
basically, now just you gave a lot of examples, but just for clarification, using the hero's quest as a roadmap need not apply to an obvious, like what we would think of as a hero story necessarily. It can be that same quest, that same framework can apply to a much smaller, simpler story, like about, I don't know, a couple in a struggling relationship, as it were, because this quest can still be something relating to that.
Of course.
Or okay, all right. For the clarification of everybody out there, we don't. This applies to more than just sci-fi, fantasy,
Right.
action movies, that sort of thing.
Yes. It does have to, there has to be a goal, there has to be a
Hmm.
quest, something they're trying to do that seems like it's going to be really hard to do. Like this person is going to have a really tough time doing it. And you could do, there can be a quest in your own home. It could be a young girl contemplating suicide.
Right.
It could be a couple going through a potential for divorce. Um, a boy trying to come out to his parents. Like these are all things that may not seem like the cycle of an epic hero. It may not seem epic, but there's a quest, and you can still use that grid, and it doesn't have to be supernatural. A lot of the times, an odyssey or an adventure is, but it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be. Batman's not supernatural. He has a lot of money, yet yet he still fits
That is a
that cycle.
superpower. Yes.
Yes. Now, the cycle of the hero is one of the most common cycles that it's easy to fill in the gaps using that sort of cycle. I've been working for the past couple years on developing a new archetype, a new character archetype I refer to as the Great Detective.
Okay.
Um, I've been seeking other archetypes as well, but I have a slight obsession with all things Sherlock Holmes,
Hmm.
even the bad versions of it. Thank you, Gene Wilder. Um, it was really bad, but I
I do
still
not
watched.
know. I what is? I do not
Eh,
know this.
yeah, it's a Gene Wilder did a Sherlock Holmes, but he was Sherlock Holmes' brother. But it still fits. Um, so if anyone is looking for that sort of thing, it doesn't follow the hero cycle. I am okay, I'm in a little of a controversial school of thought with literature nerds that I think a good TV show or movie can count
Mhm.
as literature. It's words being spoken instead of on a page, but it can still fit. Um, but in the cycle of the Great Detective, you look for a faithful companion who might not always be happy to be there.
You're
Um,
Watson.
yes, you're Watson. You've got a mentor figure who also has sort of a love-hate relationship,
Hmm.
um, which would be, oh, now I'm going to draw a blank on the name. Um, the Scotland Yard guy. What is his name?
Oh,
Uh,
I can't think of it either. That's
I,
making me mad.
I know, like, I can't believe I don't know.
I should be on this, but I'm not.
Yes. Oh gosh, Benedict Cumberbatch. Forgive me if you watch this. I know. Anyway. Okay. Um. But and then also being born with some or having experienced some sort of downfall, that's almost an Achilles heel, but at the same time prepares that detective to be able to do things in a nearly superhuman manner.
Hmm.
Um, Shows that I found that fit this is Psych, love it. House,
Okay,
um, Sherlock, obviously.
obviously.
Elementary, duh. Um, Monk,
Okay.
um, and there are more, but I'm drawing a blank on what they are at the moment. But um, basically anything where you've got like a super genius. The Good Doctor, which I don't know if they're still making new episodes of that, but fits it perfectly.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you're looking for something a little different from the hero cycle, see if your character fits into the great detective archetype. Which, as long as they're a super genius and they've got some sort of quirk that makes
Right.
it difficult for them to be around other people, you're on the right track.
Right. They're a high functioning sociopath, or they dress as a bat. Whatever.
Yes, yes, I love
Or they're actually played by Lucy Liu.
Also, yes.
And hey, real quick, I just want to give a shout out. We're joined in the chat on YouTube by Crystal. Three capital I's at Crystal, by the way, for those interested on Twitter. One of the more entertaining people in the writer corner of the Twitterverse. But
she's the yin to my yang.
The
I'm Poppy the troll and she's Satan. We balance each other.
Yes. Just ask her; she'll tell you. Hide your goats. Anyway,
there you go.
not for that reason. Anyway, all right. Anyway, let's see here. So where were we before we got to that? Yes, the great detective archetype. This is something new that you're developing, and now, I would actually argue that archetype kind of already exists, given the existence of Sherlock for one. But
yes,
I'll grant you also that it hasn't really. There aren't many examples away from Sherlock. You might have listed them all.
Oh, there are a ton actually. And I discussed this with a couple other Twitter followers as well. Like I said, I'm a nerd. I like to talk about where the comma goes and examples of the great detective. So the beautiful thing about an archetype is it's an archetype because it exists everywhere. So yes, the great detective archetype existed. Nobody gave it a name, so I'm giving it a name. It's the great detective.
Well, fair enough.
There you go. So yes, I am taking credit for other people's work. That's part of the wonder of analyzing literature.
That's part of the great thing of being involved in literature in the first place, because just because somebody else had the idea, hey, they didn't give it a name.
There you go.
And I guess, have you found anyone else who has identified this as an archetype?
Yes. As a former English teacher, I know, strangely, a lot of former English teachers, including some of my college professors, and I've discussed this ad nauseum with them, and it excites them because they're nerds as well. But then, and when I see them the next time, they're like, "Ooh, I got another great detective one for you," and they'll give me somebody else. So yes, I love that. It's what happens when you hang out with a bunch of nerds. All you do is look for character archetypes. I actually, last year, I worked with a 5th grade student who was homebound for a medical reason. And we were so fast at getting through her work that I started to get a little deeper with her on some of the literature we were discussing. And so I described the cycle of the hero and the great detective archetype to her. And then she then taught it to her teacher when she went to go back to school. The teacher was like, "You're in fifth grade. How are you this deep?" Well, you're welcome. Keep going. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
okay, so you give some really good advice for like when you're stuck.
Mhm.
What for those like myself who find it really difficult to get going with like doing the basic outlining.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, let's say you can go seat of the pants, but I actually tried that with the kind of the first half of my first draft of the book I'm working on. And as I'm writing it, I was like, I really need a plan.
Yes.
As I'm writing it, I'm like, you know what? I'm sort of just putting words on the page and filling up a word count. I recognize that. I was like, this is mostly gonna get trashed. I can just tell. And so I actually didn't cry when the computer I had it on died, and I didn't have a backup. I was like, oh.
Guess I wasn't meant to have that story.
But I was like, what? That's probably for the best. And I've done that before. I wrote another book that I managed to do 2 drafts of. And I was in my early 20s when I finished it, and it was a steaming pile of poo. And I am glad that I'm glad that I got rejection letters, and all copies of it have been expunged. As far as I know, there is nothing that exists in print or digital anywhere on this planet.
I've got several books that are like that. They don't need to see the light of day. They were smarmy high school student books that were meant for my friends to read and go gaga over.
You wrote a book?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah. And of course, I named all my characters after them.
Oh, of course. And, yeah. Duh. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, nothing makes you read a crappy story like knowing you're in it. But
so what would be your advice to somebody who, like, okay, it's like, got an idea, got a vague idea, what's the motivator / the discipline to actually get that first step, start filling out that outline? And how detailed do you find an outline should be?
Well, and there's flexibility on that too. I call it plot noting or story mapping. A lot of my former students will tell you call it story mapping or plot noting when you're actually making a whole outline. But if you have difficulty focusing enough did you get a butterfly in your room?
No, my one of my girls is standing at the door to my dungeon, and with this strange expectant look on her face. Hey,
oh yeah,
you want to come here a second? What do you want? See, this actually works because she's actually writing her own books.
Are you?
Yes.
Hey, what's your favorite Disney movie?
She can't hear you. What's your favorite Disney movie?
Beauty and the Beast, I think.
Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah. All right.
I'm not surprised you're a big fan of Bella. Yeah, it's true.
Ask her, where does Belle go that most other humans are not allowed to go?
Ooh. So where does Belle go that most other humans are not allowed to go?
The castle.
The castle, exactly right.
Excellent.
She's a smart one. So did you have a question for me there, young one? Did you have something that you needed?
Wait.
Oh, you're gonna ask if you can watch a movie. All right.
Was it Beauty and the Beast?
Probably not, actually. What have you? This is probably a silly question for you, but have you read today, since you only had a half day of school?
Yes.
Good. What did you read?
Red Pyramid.
The Red Pyramid, and that is by
Rick Riordan.
Why am I not surprised? Okay. All right. Yes, you may go and watch a movie with your sister and your brother. And what are you going to watch?
I don't know.
Probably rhymes with Harry Potter or Hunger Games.
Or The Princess Bride.
Or The Princess Bride. All right.
They all fit the hero cycle.
Yes, they do. Get out of here.
Okay.
All right. Sorry for that interruption, everybody. One of my daughters, Bria.
There's a nice guest star.
Yes.
Guest star.
This is actually, since I started doing regular podcasts again, that's actually the first time that's happened. Much to my surprise, because it does, before it started becoming a regular thing, when I would do interviews, you could almost guarantee at least one of them is going to come in and have something to say, or just be, Dad, what are you doing?
See, I have a 4 and 5-year-old, and I talk about them a lot on Twitter because they are so unique and weird, which, I mean, shocker, my kids are weird. So I actually, my best friend's husband is currently in the basement with them, keeping them from coming up here, because every time I'm working on anything writing related, one of them has to come up here, if only to ask me to tell them the Hattie and Jack's story, which is Mad Cat Hat. They are in love with that. It is not a book written for 4 and 5-year-olds. It is for probably, I would say, the high school age student. So I censor the kissing scenes, and they know I'm doing it. It doesn't work.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so back to before we had our our guest star there.
Plot noting and outlining. So I will say, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier, that, you know, as a former English teacher, kids would always tell me, they would swear up and down, I don't need to plan. I write better if I just make it up as I go along. And I liken this to it doesn't work. There's my cat. Two things that I'd mentioned. One is, you can go on vacation without a destination and you'll end up somewhere, but it might not be a good place to end up. Or showing up to date night, not having a plan, going, what do you want to do? Oh, what do you want to do? And you end up sitting on the couch for 3 hours talking about what you want to do.
Scrolling through Netflix.
Yep. But without chilling, because, you know, PG-13. So writing without plot noting, you're going to have those 3 hours on the couch talking about what you're going to want to do. You're going to have scenes that are boring. You're going to have scenes that don't give you that butterflies in the stomach thing, because you don't have a destination. You're doing what I call fluff writing. It's all fluff.
Yep.
It's, like you said, word count, words on the page. There's no action going on.
Right.
So if anything, at least have a very basic skeleton of what you want to do. It can be something as simple as, for example, with Mad Cat Hat, I had Hattie turns her cats into people. Now there's a lot more detail. Take about five chapters to get there. But I actually, when I started writing, I did not have the end goal in sight at all. It wasn't until a couple weeks ago when my editor, who is one of my very best friends, stole me and stuck me at her house and left for a wedding and told me, have the end game by the time I get home. So I did, and I actually plotted 24 books in the series. It will now be a 24-book series. I had no idea how long it was going to be, but I knew it was going to be a series, because I write them as if they are 30-minute animated comic series. So in fact, I have a 16-year-old artist who is the inspiration for the main character, and she draws 4-panel comic strips for me. Cool. That will be inserted into the story. But so yeah, I started with Hattie turns her cats into people. She finds out she's the descendant of Nefertiti. Panic ensues. Not really much to go on there. So I did break it down. I developed the characters. I do a whole lot of movie watching in my head. The head movie is playing almost all day. And people just know it. If they see me just doing this, they know I'm watching the movie. And the girls, when they can't go to bed, I'll tell them, watch the head movie, and they'll usually watch How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know. They come up with some crazy stories, but sometimes they come up with ideas for their own fanfic at the age of 4 and 5, and sometimes for Mad Cat Hat. And some of them are things 4 and 5-year-olds really should not have come up with. But they're unique children, as I said.
Yeah.
Yes, so it can be as basic as that. Just here's what I want to have happen by the end of the story. This needs to happen, so at least you have a starting point. However, what usually happens with me is I start out with sort of like a bullet point or number thing. I fill in as much as I can. I do it all on Google Docs because this is your best friend. All right, this phone here.
Oh yes.
This one's cheap. You don't want this one. Have Google Drive on your phone, because you will be at a McDonald's sipping your coffee. I hate McDonald's coffee. And you will be like, ooh, I know exactly what I want to have happen. And you won't have anything but a napkin to write it on. You're going to write it on the napkin. Your kid's going to use it to wipe up some chocolate sauce on the table, and there goes your story idea. Or pick this up, neglect your kids for a few minutes, and type in what it is you just came up with. It is a lifesaver, especially for people with small, bad short-term memories like me. Yeah, and then I expand it as much as I can before I start writing. I will not write paragraphs until I have enough of an outline. It starts off, like I said, with the numbers and the bullet points. The more I'm working on it, the more I'm watching the head movie, the more some of those bullet points turn into direct quotes that I know I want to have in the story. And they change, it's
Right.
not set in stone. Sometimes I'll have entire paragraphs, which are great because when I get to that part, just copy paste right over to the document. Don't have to write it now. Stuff gets eliminated, stuff gets shifted around. But if you don't have that map, then you're going to be driving in circles and it's going to be fluff.
Right.
But there's no set way it has to be. I'm not grading your paper on this. I have some plot notes that are 1 paragraph or 1 page. I have some plot notes that are 26 pages. So it depends.
That's a lot of plot notes.
Yes. Well, when I was writing Dice of the Nothing, as I mentioned, I have poor short-term memory. Funny story, I pitched the same scene to my editor about 6 months apart, and I was so excited the second time I did this. And she goes, "You realize 6 months ago, you told me this exact scene." I'm like, there's no way that's true. Well, it was. I found it written down later. She was telling the truth.
That's funny.
But see, bad short-term memory. Now I lost my train of thought. It jumped the tracks.
I hate it when that happens.
I know.
This gets derailed and off it goes into the woods, knocking over houses.
Like this got dark real fast.
Yeah, that happens.
Now it would be great as if like a train passed by right now and you could hear it through the mic.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, that'd be just odd.
Right. It would be like the start of a story. What if a train went by right now and landed?
Yeah, I could actually do that with a train based on like my first real job.
Yeah.
Because it was this like factory bakery in my hometown, and right by it was at the bottom of a small hill, and on top of said small hill was a train track.
Yeah.
And it was commonly thought that if that train ever goes by and it derails, comes off this side of the hill, we're all dead.
It's going to the bakery.
That cinder block wall over there ain't stopping it.
It's true. Yeah, pretty sure that one little that arm that goes up and down, I don't think that's stopping us from certain death there.
No, you knew.
But, yeah. The whole point is map out your story. Oh yes. What I was saying with Dice of the Nothing, I could not remember what I was going to do. So my editor, like I said, I love her. She knows me. She kidnaps me every once in a while, and she's like, "Shut up and write, and the kids will be fine." So I was writing out Dice of the Nothing, and the problem I had was I was working 2 other jobs at the time as well, while trying to finish it. Because when I'm working on a story and I'm watching the head movie, I get a little loopy. If it's like feeding an addiction. If you need to write and you don't write, you get weirder.
Weirder. Yes.
So what was happening was I was working my 9 to 5 and then coming home and working on Dice of the Nothing. We had a planned release date. It got shifted because we decided to move. And that put everything into a tailspin. So it ended up being about 2 months after we planned. But my husband and my editor kept saying, "Write down your idea now. Write it down now." That's how I ended up with 26 pages of plot notes for it. It was a godsend, because between working my other 2 jobs and moving and having my 2 little girls, there was no way I would have kept that story straight without having that. And what I would do is take a couple hours each night, and I would have a side-by-side on my screen, plot notes on the left and my regular document on the right, and I would just look and I would write. And my husband would just sit next to me, and he'd be reading his Bible or playing games on his phone, looking up Superman memes. I don't know what he did. And I would just, yes, it was whatever he did that entertained him. But that's how I got that book written so quickly, was because I did those plot notes. I had my whole story mapped out. I knew what was coming next. And I didn't have to worry about things like having gaps, not knowing what was coming, because I'd already planned for it. And it helped with the contextual editing process. One of the problems I find a lot when I'm working with new writers of any age, really, is like you. They're like, I don't want to sit down and make those plot notes. But and they'll say, just like my students used to, it'll be better if I just write. I don't need to plan. Then they come up with problems like, okay, but I just had this scene in here twice. Or I had her do the same thing that she already did. Or, oh, I thought I put this character in before, but I didn't. So now he came out of nowhere. These are problems that are solved when you make your map before you start driving. They're easily avoided by something that really doesn't take a whole long time, but watch your head movie, figure out the scene, write it down on your outline. However it is you outline it, paragraphs, bullet points, dartboard, I don't know. Scrivener.
Right. So I would say one of the big things that you would say is necessary to even get started is you need some time, because you need time to watch your head movie.
You do.
You can't, it's not something where you can just sit down and start writing it down. You need to spend however much time you need to get the juices flowing.
Yes.
And to actually be like, okay, now I am thinking of these characters. These are people living in my brain that are that are not 100% me at this point.
Right.
And what do they do?
Right. A very big distinction between yourself and your characters. My early writing, my parents used to get confused all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh, we can see that you believe this about the world." No, she believes that about the world.
Right.
I have a character in one of my books who hates cats. I clearly do not hate cats in the least bit. My goal is to be the crazy cat lady who also has a jetpack. Up to the cat if they want to come on the jetpack with me. That's beside the point. But yes, that's and that's where, like I said, that butterflies in the stomach, lump in the throat moment kind of comes by continually watching your characters in your head. Even just when you're doing your regular mundane tasks, when you're at the grocery store, think about your character and think, what would they do if they're here? You may generate a story idea, or you may just deepen your character, deepen your understanding of your character.
Okay.
My favorite character in Mad Cat Hat is the character of Jax. He was the stereotypical, affectionate, clingy cat who doesn't leave his owner alone. And when he becomes, he gets turned into a boy, he is still that guy. He is just as clingy and, has that desire for Hattie's constant attention.
Okay.
She has a social anxiety disorder and does not like people. So his role in her life has changed.
He's a cat.
Yes. Now that he's a person, it's a little different, and that's a struggle for him. So when I'm at work and I'm picking up a carton of milk, I think every time I pick up milk, I think of Jax, because cat's milk, and I think, what would he do if he were here right now? Or if I listened to his song, and Jolyn and I, she makes playlists for me, because I'll message her all the time and I'll say, oop, I got another one. I'll hear a song and I'll think, ooh, this fits this character. Oh, this is exactly what this person would say if they were singing a song to so-and-so. So all day long, I'm running through my head movie, or I'm making side head movies that are never going to go in the book, just to develop my character. What would Jax do if he had a job? He's 14 years old and he used to be a cat. He'd probably eat all the snacks and get fired. Um, but just thinking about that deepens my understanding of him.
Okay.
It makes me able to write him better.
No, I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
And that way you're
To
always
me.
writing even when you're working your other job.
Right. No, that's actually that actually makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, my job right now means involves me listening to a lot of lectures all day. So
Well, there you go. You could think, what would my character be thinking about this? Even when you're taking notes on listening to the lectures.
oh, there
You'd
you
think,
go. That's actually good. See, this is good. Hey, now, before we go, because we're just about out of time here. You are one of the more introverted members of the Writers Corner of the Twitterverse.
Let's flip that.
I'm sorry, I meant extroverted. I'm extroverted. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's too much caffeine late at night.
That's what it is.
You are one of the more extroverted members of the Writers Corner of the Twitterverse.
There you go.
To that end, first of all, if you wind up following Arlen, your notifications will periodically blow up. You'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna set my phone to vibrate or whatever.
Yeah.
It may get so bad you just never take it off vibrate. I'm
Yes.
just saying. Like, set your phone down, go to the bathroom, come back.
Just put it on complete silence.
What happened?
For everyone.
This could happen any day, but especially on the weekends.
Yes. Well, my AL's Friday awards tend to blow up people's phones.
Well, yes, and actually, before I get to the main thing, I was going to ask you also now have Meet Mondays.
I do.
And Who's Who Wednesdays.
Yes.
What do you do? What do you do with those for the uninitiated?
There you go. Okay. Well, my pride and joy is my AL's Friday awards, where I award completely pointless awards, usually for anything from extreme grandiosity to absolute mediocrity. I wore 2 different socks yesterday. I almost gave myself an award for that because it's been a while. They both had polka dots, but they were different colors. I was wearing sandals. I'm not a fashionable person. Don't let the awesome hair fool you, which I still can't see the green. I think you're all lying to me.
No. I see it.
Yeah?
It's on your shoulder a little bit there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's literally on my shoulder. My skin got more color than my hair did. I still look like She-Hulk.
Nice.
But yes, my Who's Who Wednesdays, which thank you to CJ for coming up with that idea. Who's Who Wednesday will feature a new follower. And it'll just be 1 or 2 tweets, who they are, what their craft is. Mostly people who follow me are writers, but I have some artists. I have some musicians. I am also a singer. A couple people know that. I can be caught karaokeing all day long. If Ask Autumn Faraday, we exchange music. She's a very gifted guitar player.
Really?
Anyone who follows Autumn on Twitter, get the girl to post her guitar. Man, she's incredible. She's going to give these other musicians a run for their money. But my Monday meet is a lot more detailed. It's a series of, I believe, 9 questions. I do literature, not math, so it could be 25. I don't know. But just some very random questions and some detailed questions about your craft. And then I share them throughout the day, and people retweet them and comment, and then you get 1,700 followers who become interested in the strange things I post about you. So yes, one of the things I love about Twitter is being able to promote my followers and what they do.
Oh, that is awesome. That's actually, I would agree. That's one of the more fun things is actually getting to know different people and seeing what it is they're doing with their lives that isn't just beyond just a 9-to-5 job. Because that's one of the things I found very fascinating is that so many people, like we all have day jobs, most of us, but almost nobody just has a day job. Almost everybody I meet has got something else, some side gig, some aspiration they're busy chasing. It's very interesting to me. Yes. Now, along those lines, you have got something planned for the end of the summer, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it's either the first or second weekend of August, which, depending on which weekend it is, it will change a little bit of the plans of what we're doing. I'm hosting a Chicago writer retreat, which is not actually in Chicago. It'll be in Rockford because we are all poor people. Unless any of you are rich, in which case, follow me at Dr. Who, What, Why, How. And
Make sure to give your PayPal account.
yes, exactly. I promise I won't go shopping much. I might purchase a lot of cookies. Probably a computer. But yes, the Van Galder bus goes from O'Hare to Rockford, and I think it's only about $12. So I figured a $12 bus ride was a lot better than paying 3 times the amount for the hotel. So you pay your own way here. You pay for your hotel. I am paying for the conference room. And I will probably provide food. I have a compulsive need to feed people. I promise it won't just be cookies. I talk about cookies a lot. I really like cookies. I don't have a healthy diet. But yes. But everyone is welcome, whether you've been published or whether you just write things in a 75-cent notebook that you stole from your kid's backpack. There are, I believe, 5 people, including myself, who are definitely going to be there. It could be as many people as we want. Everyone is welcome, even if I don't know you, even if you don't follow me. Just connect with me on Twitter, and I'll share the information as it becomes available. But depending on the desires of everyone who's going, first or second weekend in August, we'll start Friday, leave Sunday, show up for one day or all 3. Guaranteed there will be karaoke happening. You don't have to participate. A 24-hour Arlen karaoke session is not out of the question. There will be a jam session, especially if Autumn comes and plays her guitar. And ML Moose, I believe, may be bringing, I can't remember, I want to say violin.
I think she said that. I think she said she plays violin.
Yes, because we are Jacks and Jills of all trades. We do a lot. I have my bass. I suck at bass. I own one. I know what the strings are called. My craft is here. I sing. I do not play bass well. Contrary to popular belief, people who think I'm the bass lady. I'm the jetpack lady, guys. But yeah, I won a trivia contest and got a bowling party for 60 people. So depending on which weekend we decide to host Writers Retreat, there may be bowling involved. So prepare to beat me at bowling, because that is not what.
Let's not make this a contest. Let's not make this a contest for who gets the lowest score, okay?
Yeah, I think I broke 100 once. Even when I have the bumpers up, I still get gutter balls. Like, if
that's a rare talent.
You know, I take pride in the fact that I managed to do that. But yes, so y'all may be going to a bowling party. But yeah, if everyone just DM me or message me on Twitter and let me know if you're interested, and whether you prefer the first or second weekend of August, and whatever more people want, that's what we'll do. Even if it's only 5 of us.
Well, and like I said, I plan on being there currently for at least the Saturday. As it turns out, where I work actually puts me not terribly far away.
Okay.
So I can just leave from work on Friday, drive over, and
there you go. Well, and because the main goal of it is just time for just like it's called, writer retreat. Just to have a retreat away from the kids, away from the spouses. Lock yourself in a room or the conference room and just write. We will have some roundtable discussions. We all have different areas of expertise, and we'll talk about what do we do to format a book, or how to come up with story ideas, or what do we do for character development? Who knows somebody who knows how to design book covers? What do I do if I don't know where the comma goes? Couple of us are good at that. I will pass out my Diana Hacker's Pocket Style Manual, which I try to force all college-bound students and college graduates to have if they plan on writing. But yeah, so that and just some fellowship and food and karaoke.
And just having a good time.
Having a good time.
A little bit. All right. Well, hey, Arlen, thank you so much for coming on and doing this interview. I know actually you gave a lot of advice that is going to help me with my own work in progress. And I hope some of the other people who've gotten a chance to watch this are also been helped, and that some of the people watching are going to show up for the writers retreat.
That'd be great.
Towards the beginning of August here, because I am actually really looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot
too.
of fun. And you can follow me at Gingerman Editorial on the Twitter. I'm on the Facebook somewhere. And my website is gingermaneditorial.com. And Arlen, once again, for the fine people at home, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Who, What, Why, How, or you can find me on Facebook. Look up Arlen Lake, Arlynn, and the last name Lake. We all know how to spell. I hope. Yes.
All right. Well, hey, again, thank you so much. And for anybody who misses this, it'll be up on YouTube at Gingerman Editorial is the YouTube channel. The podcast is Coffee Books Repeat. So look for that on SoundCloud or on the iTunes. And hopefully I'll have a chance to expand its reach a little bit farther in the future. And tune in this coming Wednesday when I'm going to be interviewing the previously mentioned ML Moose and a little project she's getting ready to launch.
Ooh.
So with that little tease, I will leave you and keep writing and keep drinking coffee.